Hey guys, welcome to the channel, welcome to the stream, and another chapter working on our tank that is going to end soon. That's the M2A3 Bradley with the Busk 3 armor. Yes. Run the intro. We'll get started. Okay guys, we're back. We are back. And, well, we're gonna finish this thing. We're actually gonna finish it. This is part, what, 27? That means at least 27 hours I've put into this thing. At least. Which is the most I've ever put into a model. Here we are. This is what we got. Obviously, I don't have the turret on here. But I didn't really do anything off camera other than making sure my tracks were glued. I noticed even, you guys saw me gluing the tracks, I still, even an hour later, I go to move them and they're still a little bit, moving a little bit, and that's okay. Having a little bit of flex in there is fine. The main thing is I want them glued. So I see even just doing this while I'm literally doing this live, I noticed this is not glued to this wheel. But that's okay, because we're going to be getting dirty today. So one thing I tried to avoid right up until the end was putting in the little windows everywhere, because I didn't want to have to mask them all off when I'm painting. Well, guess what? I wound up having to mask them anyway, because I am going to be painting this thing with a flat clear, and I don't want all my glass to be a flat clear color. So I wound up having to put little tiny pieces of masking tape on all my windows. See all these little yellow bits? It's all little pieces of masking tape on my windows. And I also went and put in put our tail light lenses in, and then of course I got to mask those. And I put in our headlight lenses, and I had to mask those because, well, it's glass. It should be shiny, right? Yeah. Anyway. As you can see, I've got my little setup here to make our tracks a little muddy, because tracks get mud on them. That's just the way it is. These things, they don't drive on the roads all the time, and so they get a little dirty underneath here. And so that's what we're going to try and represent. I'm not thinking crazy amounts of mud, but I am thinking definitely got some mud on it. The good thing and the bad thing about the tracks being tucked up underneath these great big side skirts is that we don't need to really worry too much about it. But in the case of this one and what I'm doing, in that I'm leaving the top half of the hull removable, I don't get the privilege of leaving the top half of this untouched. I need to actually put some stuff in there, and that also means a little bit on the inside of our skirts here should get a little bit of our brown love, right? So yeah, so what am I using for that? I'm using VMS's Spot On pigments. So all this is just pigment. It's all of our paints that we have, they have a pigment in them. This is how they start out. And so the companies, they put maybe an alcohol-based thinner in it, or maybe a lacquer-based thinner, all these kinds of things. Or in the case of Vallejo, it's a water-based thinner. But they all start out with a pigment, and then they get a thinner put to them, and that's how we get paint. So all this really is just paint with no liquid in it. So it's a powder. Okay? Now, VMS makes a pigments that actually have some texture to them. And is this one that got the texture? I don't believe so. I have one with texture. Look at my textures here. I don't want that one. This is a same color, so it's brown earth, but this one has texture. So if you actually want to have like chunky bits of mud, then you'll use the one with texture in it. And that can be handy, because it's just a little bit thicker. So what I'm going to have is I've got just a really cheap brush. This is my sacrificial brush that I'm going to use because, and this is dusty, so let's clean this up so we got a clean thing to use, okay? So just get the dust off of this. Now clearly I've used this before in the past. This is a very messy process. So what I'm actually going to do to try and keep my desk a little bit clean, I'm going to lay down my paper towel here, because no matter what you do, it's a messy process and you're going to get stuff in places you don't necessarily want it, and it's just the way it is. So I'll lay that down there. It doesn't look very nice, but it's going to keep my desk a little bit cleaner. So let me change the camera and I'll kind of show you as I go along here what I'm doing here. You guys have seen me do this in just about every other tank build I've done. So if you want to see that process and the different tanks, and it's basically I'm doing the same stuff. So, but yeah. Anyway, so we'll scoop out a little bit of this. Okay, put it here. Let's do 2 scoops. 2 scoops. Okay, lay that down. Let's find my lid. I don't want to dump this. Okay, so I'll just put this behind me here, out of the way. Okay, so then we're going to use a little bit of this stuff. Now this is AK Interactive, this is not VMS. I do have VMS stuff also. That's this stuff here, alkyd binders. Okay, you can use either one of these. This is a fixer, pigment fixer, right? An alkyd binder, same stuff, really. I'll use this stuff just because. We'll keep the same brand together. We'll squirt enough in here that we get a little bit of a paste. We don't want it too thin because we're not making paint. We want to keep it a little thick. And you can adjust it just by how much you put on here. We'll just put a few drops and we'll see how this mixes up. You can see as it starts to soak it up a little bit. And of course it's completely stuck to my brush, and that means it's way too thick. So let's thin this out a little bit. A few more drops. And mix that up. See, it's made like a paste, right? And it turns out I didn't really make very much at all, right? So we're going to add a little more. And now it's more of a paint. See, it's much thinner. It's watered down. Okay? But I'm trying to make more of this. I need to make more, which means I need more pigment. I want to actually make a considerable amount here. So that we can get stuff done. So let's add some more. Let's do 3 more big heaping scoops of it. Now this stuff does seem to, it kind of attacks my brush, for lack of a better word, which is why I use my really cheap brush. Okay, I got a pretty good paste going on here now. Now I've got some mud. Now it looks like I've got mud in here, right? And that's the whole purpose of this. We want some mud. It's got to be thick, got to have some texture to it. That's the whole point of it. Now let's grab our subject here. Now I think probably some mud up inside here is going to be accurate. So with my glasses, the proper glasses on, so that I can see what I'm doing. As I notice, as soon as I bring it close to my face, suddenly I can't see anything. Okay, let's get back to this. I think this should have some mud on it. Up in here. This is where the tracks are going to be flinging mud everywhere. And so this whole thing should be kind of muddy and dirty on the inside here. So I'm putting lots on in there because that's the way it would be. So because it's kind of a paint, it's also a paint, so if I just want to paint it on like that, I can do that. So down here, maybe I do a little bit of stippling and stuff like that, and As we get down more towards the bottom, we'll get a little bit more random to it. Spin my brush around and kind of make it look like, you know, stuff has been going on. And I want to get in here too. That should have some texture on it. Definitely on the back here where the tracks have flung up, and in there. Like this. All in this dark green, I think, is going to be where mud is going to have gotten into, and then up the back here, that should be dirty. Where the tracks fling the mud up the back and over. And we'll do a little bit on the bottom here. If at any time you feel that you've done too much, this stuff will just clean up with some mineral spirits. So I think that's pretty good for that side there. We're going to do a little on this side now. Get in here. All along here. You want to refrain from letting your brush strokes show, because, well, there wouldn't be brush strokes from mud, right? So you'll want to make sure it doesn't look like you've used a brush on it. There we go. Nice and random. There. Now let's simulate the mud flinging up the side there at the back. There we go. Because these get dirty. These tanks, you know, they get really dirty. So there we go. So I think that's good enough for that. We can add more of that if I feel like I need to, but I think that's good enough. So let's focus now on the actual tracks and the back here. The back is where it gets the dirtiest as mud comes up and flings up off the fender, off the rear fender. Of course there's going to be lots of mud there, right? Up in here. Of course there is. Always. And there's going to be mud on the bottom of these where it's flung back like this. Same thing, this side here. I'm stippling it so we get some texture so it looks like actual mud is on there. Okay, now for the realism on the actual tracks. Tracks are going to get kind of stippled. And if I get a couple of little blobs in little holes and things like that, then that's perfect, because that's realism. I don't want to go too heavy on it. I don't want it to just totally eliminate all of our detailing that we did when we made the tracks. Oh, broke that one loose, but that's okay. Now, as far as our fender in the front goes, that should get a little love too. Paint that brown in there, and we could even add a little bit of texture in there. Let's do the same on this one. work our way back here. If I get a little chunk on my brush, I can kind of work that in. We'll get to the wheels. Don't you worry, we'll get to the wheels. Alright, now we're back at the back. Now, I'm going to get in here where things never really get cleaned up in our suspension and everything like that. And all the way along the bottom here. On our bottom edge. I really should put my lid back on my thing just in case I bump it. Okay. The wheels shouldn't really have a lot of chunks on them because, you know, they're always spinning, and well, because of that fact, they kind of get cleaned off. Maybe on the center of the hubs, you know, they don't get really that dirty, but they should have. It's okay to have some. You don't want your wheels pristine either, right? That would not be realistic. So I'm just going to kind of get in here and kind of mess up the insides a little bit. Now what I want to do is put our hull back on in one piece so that I can do the back and the sides a little bit more as one. Let's get that together. Okay. A little bit more realistic. Okay. I think that's good for the mud effects. I don't think we need any more because we got to do dust on this thing too. Okay? But I think that's a good start. Okay? So, that's it for this brush, right? There's really not much else to do. And we'll take this and just put this aside and let that dry. Okay, so we can put her down. Let's just wipe this off clean. Yeah, I can, because of the everything built up in there, this won't even squeeze to be normal anymore. I could probably run this in my thinner and get that cleaned up, but it's, you know, It's a brush that costs me about 10 cents. I don't really care. But that being said, we can use it to stipple little bits, but we don't need to, right? It's fine. But I can still use it. What can I still use it for? AK's Interactive's dust effects. So let's get this shaken out. These guys, when they sit for a while, the pigment really settles. Which is why I put ball bearings in these things, so that they shake up nice. See, now when I shake it, you can hear that ball bearing around. When I first shook this, you couldn't hear it at all. So, it's also hard to open. That's what it looks like. Okay? And all we're going to do is take it. I don't really need that much, but it's going to help out a lot. I'm going to actually just dab this a little bit because I don't need that much. We're going to put it in a few spots. Okay. This. All around our tank. And you might be thinking to yourself, or about to ask me, what are you doing? Well, I just told you what I'm doing. I'm putting dust effects on here. But that doesn't look like dust effects though. You are right. Correct. You are very correct. Right now they don't look like dust effects at all. But I'm even going to do it on the sides. You know, the sides, dust doesn't collect on the sides. Yes, it does. You'll see what I mean in a minute. And it's, in fact, don't forget about the turret. The turret gets dust on it too. So, don't forget to do that on a turret also. And you go, what are you doing? Why are you doing it everywhere like that? Because you're going to see how I blend it all in. Okay? Let's see if I can hold it by the windows. Here we go. So basically, it's kind of like doing a panel liner. We're going to thin it out now, really big. I don't know why I've got my panel liner over there. It shouldn't be. That should be my thinner. Where's my thinner? Thinner. Okay, just white spirits. That's all it is. We're going to use white spirits to clean it all up. So I need to get some of this off of my brush, because now I've got lots of pigment on this, and it actually just went right through the cloth onto my paper. Okay, let me just clean up my brush. I'm going to clean it with a little bit of lacquer thinner first. Let's get some of the pigment off of my brush here. That's better. All right, much better. Much, much better. Now the fact that this stuff has had a minute to dry, that doesn't affect it at all. What's going to affect it though is if I leave the lacquer thinner on this and I start trying to do stuff, that's really going to ruin my model kit. Because the lacquer thinner will just eat through all the layers of paint. And we definitely don't want it eating through all the layers of paint. So I'm going to make sure that my brush is dry completely of the lacquer thinner. By really cleaning that off. Drying that off a lot. Okay. All right. So brush is dry. And it looks a little better too, doesn't it? So now what we're going to do is we're going to dip it in the white spirits, and we're going to actually take the turret off here for a minute. And these are still pretty wet, and it's a little too much. So I'm going to get a piece of paper towel here. I may have gone a little overboard. So let's just kind of dab these up a little bit. them dry. Just a little bit. Okay? Now, we've dipped it in the, and we're just going to do that. Okay? That's literally all we're doing. It's just thinning it down so much that it's going to spread it all around into little nooks and crannies and everything like that, and run into little areas, just like, you know, you ever had gone out to your car just after, you know, when you haven't washed your car in a long time, and then it rains just a little bit, and you go out to your car and you've got all those little dots everywhere all over your car from the rain. That's what we're simulating here. Dust kind of just accumulates everywhere like this. See how that runs down in there, just like it would if you had a batch of dust on the tank and it suddenly got rained on and it just went into everything. You can even just do this, spread it all out everywhere. A little more. It's kind of a wash, right? That's kind of what we're doing. It's doing a wash. For the sides, I'm gonna streak it down. I'll tip this up so you can see a little bit. For the sides, I'm streaking it like this. Streaking it down. Because that's what it would do. It would just run down the sides. Just like that. Okay? And actually pool at the bottom, just like it would in real life. Even for these little areas here, you can streak it down just a little bit to simulate that, you know, it's just running down. Okay? I'm going to turn this guy around. So I can do this. Simulate that running down there. Have this streaking down there a little bit. I don't really want it accumulating around the bolt heads too much. And if I got too much on there, you can always just go back. You can soak it up with a bit of a cloth or whatever. Whatever you want to, whatever you like. You can do as little as much as you like. It's really up to you. You get lots of freedom in this. Lots of artistic freedom. This is a lot here, so I can kind of spread it out as I get it on my brush. And add a few here or there. We don't know what the story is, why there's a whole lot on one side but not on the other. We don't know what happened to this tank. We didn't see it happen. We just know it's there, right? That's the whole point of this. We're just kind of telling a bit of a story. We didn't write the story. We're just telling it. And so that's the way it is. And if you don't like it, you think it's too much, thin it out and spread it out like that. Okay? That's all you got to do. And if you really think it's way too much, just put a lot on there and then wipe it away with the cloth and it'll disappear. For the front's on an angle, so it should. It's kind of simulating water, rainwater, right? So we want to loosen these up and kind of drag them down. Again, if it's too much, dry them up a little bit. And you can refine it. So I've got some pretty good pooling here. Why is that? Because it's a little too wet. So let's just dab that a little bit. Dry off my brush just a little bit. And now when I streak it, it just pulls it. You can do little streaks, you can do lots, you can do the whole bloody thing if you want. It's really up to you. You want to leave a little streak? That's perfectly fine too. You want to say, oh, this is just too much. I want to leave these, but that's too much. Well, let's find a Q-tip. Let's find a Q-tip here. Okay. Take a Q-tip and just run it in there and soak it up a little bit. There we go. And we can just pull that down just so it looks a little more natural. Q-tip on top of my headlight here, just soak that up a little bit. Very, very easy. Okay, got a little bit too much on the little spot. Dab it in there. Done. This is looking very soaking wet, so I am going to just kind of dab this up a little bit here and there, just to help it dry a little bit. It's a little difficult because of all the detail in there, all the little blocks and buttons and knobs and all that stuff, but we can still get in there. Let's soak that up a little bit. There we go. Just a little bit. All right, let's continue here on the front. I want to kind of streak them a little bit and not have it so much on the... Now, where we're missing is here on the front. I didn't put any on the front, so I need to do that. So I'm going to borrow from our turret. So I'm going to dip this in here, dry it off just a little bit, and let's just borrow from our hatch. Now that I've got some on the brush, I can do a few little streaks here. I could also stipple on here and streak. There we go. Now, any place else I forgot? I didn't really do any on the back, did I? No, I did not. So, let's shake this up a little bit. And go dip and just into that and go ding, ding, ding. That's good, I think. Maybe in here and in here. Okay. And I don't think I got enough on the front. I'm not happy with the front. I want a little bit more on the front. There we go. Okay, let's close this up. Clean that off. Dip in our thinner here. Don't need it quite that wet. And streak down our front. Now, again, is that too much? Maybe. If it's too much, clean more of it off. If you want more, then fine, put more. Okay, do the back. Now I just realized I kind of shoved my thumb into this and I kind of loosened up my tracks, and I didn't really want to, so I'm going to have to re-glue these, but I'll do that later. Let's reorganize my thing. So again, I want to streak this down. Just kind of blur it off a little bit here. Again, we don't know what's going on with this, so why that happened, why we've got streaks, we don't know. Like I said before, we don't know the full story. We just know how it looks now. Okay, so we're getting there. As this starts to dry, you can see how it's kind of formulating all around in these areas. If you're not happy with it, you can always reactivate it as it starts to dry. You can reactivate it, create some streaks. It's really up to you. You might notice I haven't really done anything on this grill, and I haven't done anything on our vent or our exhaust, because I've got another plan for those. Okay? So, let's let this dry for a few minutes. We're going to work on our turret. The turret is basically the exact same thing. Just do a lot of, on the top, I'll just do some stippling to get it to pool into some areas. And then on our fronts, on our edges, that's where we're going to do our pulling. Again, if it's too much, like that's, you know, for my taste, that's a little too much there, right? But we can bring that all the way down underneath to be like, yep, not only did the rain pull that down there, it's actually brought it all the way underneath. And we can add, where we have too much on one, we can pull that over, so do that and come over here to the sides where we didn't put any. And just add our streaks. I'm gonna go boink so I can get in here. See, we've gone all the way down into the underneath there. It really adds a lot of the weathered look to realism in its the fact that it's not pristine. It's been out in the weather. It really does. Places like this I've gone in and it's a little hard, a little difficult to get in. Okay, our little hatch here needs a bit of love, and I think I touched one of the ammo boxes here, and now it's got all kinds of stuff going on it. There's another hatch, needs some love. For the top, you just basically need it to pool right into areas. When you've got perfectly flat surfaces, that's all you need is for it to pool. For spots like this, I want to have a streak going down there. And just imagine how the rain would bring the dust, right? Just think of it like that. See, this is the one spot that's just got a little too much. I want to clean that up a bit. Yeah, I got a lot in here. I don't want too much there. We're looking pretty good, except for the top of this doesn't look too nice to me. Let's clean off the top, give that a bit of a wipe, and yeah. I think we're looking pretty good as far as the top of the turret goes. Yeah, guys, I think that's pretty much it. And with that being it, that means we can move on to the next thing. So that means getting a little bit pigment again. And what do I need this time? This time we need black pigment for exhaust. So I've got the exact same stuff. It's just a pigment, but this is just plain black. And so we need to do a little bit of exhaust work coming out of our, well, coming out of our exhaust. This is a diesel engine after all. And so diesel engines do, you know, I don't think they put DEF fluid in the tanks. So where the exhaust is coming out here, this should be black, totally black, right? And maybe even straight across here. So I'm just going to dip into our pigments here, shake that off a little bit, and I'm going to just dab in here. So that should be totally black. Okay, and I'm going to kind of do a little bit of a trail coming off right here. I'm just going to dab that on there. And I'm going to go right across all over this. I'm going to go a little bit up on the edge here. And I've faded like it's traveling. All the way across this thing. There we go. There we go. We've got a nice black, sooty kind of pattern on there. There we go. So, this is all starting to dry, and it looks really kind of terrible right now because we need to seal this all in as one cohesive layer of paint. Otherwise, it really does just kind of look like crap. So, I'm just going to lift this up. I'm going to clean my brush off. Get rid of all my pigments out of my brush. So my brush actually it didn't fare too badly. It stayed together. I've had my brushes literally just disintegrate on me from putting on the pigments. It's just too harsh, too much stippling, too heavy-handed on the brush, I guess. So that is going to be it for my weathering. So what do I need to do? One final step. One final step to me is TS80 flat clear. I'm going to do the hull first, and then I'll do the turret. Change the camera. All right, let's move this here. At least you can sort of see what I'm doing. you see what I'm doing now? A little bit. I'm going to put this on my little Lazy Susan here so that I can spin it around. I'm going to do it upside down first and get in all this and seal in all that stuff. So I'll just set it there. And we'll do I have noticed, you know, I've done this in the past where I put on my mud and stuff like that, and then I hit it with the flat clear, and the flat clear a lot of times actually turns it kind of a whitish color, and it looks kind of weird afterwards. I'm hoping that doesn't do it this time, but it might. It might. And yeah, it's already, I can tell it's doing a little bit of funky stuff. But that's okay. It's okay, because what it does, it's going to make it look a lot more like really dry dirt. Right? Let's, this is still a little bit wet. My thinner isn't quite dried fully. So let's just give this another 5 minutes or so to dry off. Okay? We'll give it some time. As far as this goes, we're almost there. Of course, I put my fingerprint on it. That's okay. I'll clean that up. Now I got green on my thumb. But that's okay. It adds character. It adds character. I wanted to bring it closer so you could see how it's the flat clear turns it white, turns the dirt white. You can really see it on there. It's a really light color. As it dries, it's really almost looks like snow in a sense. But that's okay, because it just makes it look even drier, right? At least in my opinion anyway. Okay, let's flip her over and let's actually, on the tracks themselves, it's pretty much dried, so that's fine. With all my stuff that I've been doing it today, it says my glue has kind of come off on my wheels a little bit, but that's all right. Right, so the flat clear has been sprayed. You can kind of, you can watch the paint dry. How about that? Now what I want to do with this, I got to spray paint the flat, but I don't want to spray paint my little green thing, my green part underneath. So I'm going to grab some masking tape and mask this part off. There we go. Okay, I'm also going to put a glove on because I don't want to spray paint my hand. Even though it's clear, I still don't want to paint my hand. Even though it's clear. You can see this is starting to dry. And except for where I've got the pigment a little bit thick here, I think I'm going to have to add a little bit more of the black pigment in that spot, because I shouldn't have a little white spot there, but I do. Okay. Let's paint this guy. All right. He's got a very nice, decent amount of clear coat on him. I'm going to take one of my paints here and create a little triangle for him to just kind of sit down in like that. And now this is looking very more solidified in one particular color and sheen, let's put it that way, sheen, like Charlie Sheen. Okay, she's looking very solidified in her shininess, which means she's done. And that's another thing I really love about doing a flat clear over decals is the flat clear. So one thing that really happens, everybody argues, like if you look at this decal right here, let me change the camera. If you look at this decal right here, that's easy for you to see because it really stands out against the green, right? This guy right there. So when you put that down, now I did a gloss coat of a gloss clear over this thing to give it a nice smooth surface for the decal to lay down on. But the decal comes out super glossy and shiny over the matte paint. So then it really stands out and it just doesn't look good at all. So then what you do is you lay down another coat of gloss clear over the decals, and that kind of unifies it in its layer. It seals the decal in and makes it stay there. But it still makes it a lot more glossy than the rest of it. But when after doing that, I go over it with the flat clear. The flat clear makes it the same flat clear that the rest of the kit is, and it disappears, and the decal then looks like it's actually part of the thing and looks like it's paint and not decals. Another spot that really stands out is the decal that goes on the back door here. This guy here, the little designation number, that's another one that doesn't look like a decal, and of course it's got the streaking on there, so it just looks like it's, you know, painted on. But that's it. Now, just to make sure it's all the same, I really should do another coat of flat clear on here. I should do 2 coats. To do it proper, I should do 2 coats. And so I'm going to do a second coat on here. I'm going to do one more coat. Just to get it all the same everywhere, right? Okay, done. Our turret is also done. I should do another coat. I can just see a little bit of weirdness where it didn't quite cover everything, but other than that, it looks really great. And yeah, so I didn't quite get in here with it, so I should get in there with it. Yeah, so let me get my glove back on. And I think this is basically where we're going to call it a day, because there's nothing else to do. Once I've got the flat clear on here, there's no more to do other than remove the tape. Yeah. One's shiny and one's not. It's shiny because it's wet. You should know that. Yeah, I do know that. Yeah, I do know that. So guys, the tank that never ends is ending. We're done. we are done. Done. The only thing I gotta do now is remove all my little masking tape bits off of our windows. Okay? That's all I gotta do, is remove all of these little things. Oh, like this. See? Just like that. Bing. I gotta remove the 28 or 30 of those little guys. And call it done. These really didn't stick very well at all, did they? Well, they did their job in covering up the windows long enough that they didn't get painted with flat clear. So my windows are actually shiny. Get off of my tweezers, okay? The windows are actually shiny. And that's the important thing. All right. So guys, we're done. We're done. The tank that never ends has ended. We are finished. So I gotta let this dry. Let this paint cure for a little while. And then I can remove my little bits of masking tape off of my fingers and get off of me. Get off. Yeah. Yeah, I gotta remove the masking tape, and after I've done that, I'll take some pictures of it. I'll take some pictures and I'll upload it to my Instagram, like I always do. With every kit that I build, after I'm done, I upload the pictures of it to my Instagram. There's going to be a link to that in the description box, which I invite you to check out. And also down by the description box on the either side, you're going to see a like button and a subscribe, and I'd really appreciate hitting those too. Yes. Thank you guys who followed me along with this long journey of building this tank. I keep calling it a tank, but it's a troop transport, right? It's a troop carrier. Yes, this is dry enough now that I can actually touch it a little bit. Yeah, literally the longest build I've ever done. Now, you know, to some of these, I see a lot of the expert modelers on Facebook groups who spend hundreds of hours building kits. That's why they're experts. That's why they're professionals. Because they put in that kind of time to build model kits, and I don't. I do them in roughly 12 hours maybe per kit, something like that. Yeah. Anyway, guys, that's it for this kit. I want to thank you for watching. Thank you for all the support and all the chats that I've had throughout this series. I appreciate it. And yeah, I guess that's going to be it for this gun. I'm almost a little bit sad this one's taken so long. I felt like it was never going to end, and yet here we are. It's the end, and I'm not really ready to say goodbye yet. Anyway, guys, thank you for the support, and thanks for following along, and we'll see you all in the next one.